The Fast and the Furious came out June 22nd, 2001. It kind of has a little special place with me because when I watched it for the very first time, I watched it on VHS, home video with my good friend Brad. We did a little sleepover, had a movie night with it. So first time seeing this movie ever was way back then on video. I rewatched it recently just to kind of be like, I'm kind of curious to see if things maybe aged well, if things were good. It's not a bad movie. It's not a great movie. You know that game Need for Speed? Well, we want to do a movie inspired by that where it's a lot of street racing and fast cars and sexy women. And then they made it. And then you watch, you're kind of like, yeah, the music's just like from Need for Speed. It's kind of obnoxious. The cars are fast and sexy and the women are gorgeous and whatnot in between. But they put a story to it. Looking back now as an adult, the story's actually pretty legit. You've got basically street gang, rival street gang, and they do their shenanigans. Stay off my block, stay off your block. And they do like heisting things. Dominic Toretto's this master plan genius of robbing big rig trucks and taking the merch. And then Brian comes into it, undercover cop, figuring everything out. It works. You're like, yeah, I can buy into that.
I have a special place in my heart for this movie. This is where I first discovered the wonderfulness that is Vin Diesel. And ever since then, I've been a diehard fan of his. He is pure machismo, but he's really a nerd. You take those two things together, it's an action star that's a nerd in real life. Man's my hero. This was the first movie I saw him in, shortly after I saw Boiler Room, which I know came out first, but this was the first movie I saw him in. This movie, by no means, is it a high-budget movie. By no means are there crazy stunts in this movie like the franchise has become. And by no means is this a really thick storyline. The storyline is cliche. A lot of the interactions are dull. A lot of the supporting characters are weak, which is why you never see them again. The strong ones made it to the next movie, well, the fourth movie, but we know how the franchise works. This movie isn't, in my opinion, a masterpiece. But you know what? This movie is a ton of fun. It doesn't matter when I go back and watched it. I watched it for the anniversary in theaters last year. I watched it again yesterday for this throwback review, and I loved it every time I saw it.
This is a macho guy's movie. Fast cars, fast women, partying, beers, barbecue chicken. That's pretty much this movie. A lot of that is pretty great. Namely, the cars. Really great racing sequences. There's a lot of visual trickery going on to make things seem faster than they really are. It actually holds up really well, even in 2017. Really enjoyed the way that the races looked. Really felt that adrenaline, felt the furiousness. There are people racing these cars. One of them was a very commanding presence, Vin Diesel. I was very invested in his character, really enjoyed his acting. There are few movies that I have not enjoyed him as an actor. And frankly, I thought the movie should have focused more on him, should have been more about him. Instead, more about the other character, undercover cop who gets in too deep, falls in love with someone from the wrong side, but that wasn't fake. He wasn't faking that. That was for real. Super cliched, seen it a million times, and sadly, the character came off as a poor man's Bill and Ted caricature, where he seems sort of like a blonde surfer. Oh man, hey man, you stop stealing cars, man. Like, I gotta get in with your group. Come on, I'm part of this. There's a lot of moments where the camera is just focused on him. There's no dialogue whatsoever. So we really need to get information. We need to get emotion from how he looks. He needs to emote. And there was like no emoting going on whatsoever. I'm just looking at a blank face. There's like nothing going on behind the eyes and the hair. And I'm like, I don't know what you're feeling right now. And spend so much time just on his expressionless, no words face that I'm like, can we get back to the car racing or something? Because like, that's actually, way more interesting to look at.
Acting, not great. You're watching, you're like, yeah, this is definitely an early 2000s movie. There's a couple scenes where you're not sure how they were going with that, but like when Brian throws his first punch on Vince, it almost was like, punch, stop, now take the hit and fall. I kind of giggled.
It has a good way of showing street racing in a way that kind of makes you want to go and watch it. I'm not even a car guy, I'm a computer nerd, and yet I want to go to like car races and like see this world that they've created in this movie. It's fascinating, and I think that's what this movie provides. It provides this world you want to be part of, and I think that's why it succeeded into the future. They had the world once they figured out what the world was in the fourth movie. They took that world and they just kept adding to it and adding more to it until you reach the new movie and there's tons of stuff. This is the foundation for an excellent franchise, and it's an excellent place to start. If you were to watch just the first movie and the newest movie without anybody telling you the stark differences, you'd be completely lost. They almost don't connect other than similar characters. It's just way different. Despite the so-so acting in some of the characters and the supporting cast talent, I still feel this movie is fantastic.
The story is also actually not that interesting. It's a very cliched undercover cop situation, but then it becomes very ridiculous and unbelievable. A couple of trucks that had some Panasonic DVD players got hijacked, and every single police agency in the entire state of California is laser focused on catching the criminals that hijacked those DVD players. Plus, the FBI bought a mansion in Hollywood to work together as their base of operations. They've got an undercover agent, plus they bought him one of the most expensive cars that exists, and they all wear riot gear. They're basically totally fully armed to like occupy the entire city because a couple of trucks that have DVD players got hijacked. I'm not sure that that's really paying off.
One thing about this movie, it is dated in the sense of the computer. I don't know who the still uses a floppy disk, but you ain't putting nothing of major importance on that. And they'd be like, oh yeah, here's the specs to this engine and stuff. Like, yeah, no. I was laughing hardcore because I remember back in high school, the floppy disk was enough to kind of maybe put a couple of pictures at best. And you're like, oh, here you go. Like, there's a documented homework thing in there. That part doesn't really work, but the internet's in there, cell phones are in there, flip phones, all that stuff. So everything does kind of age well, except the floppy thing, because we're all discs now and wireless. The movie, though, I do feel holds up. So I feel if this were to come out today, it would kind of be like one of those, the studio's like, hey, we slated this date, we got to put a movie in there, here's like 50 million, go make a movie. But I think the thing that sticks with you the most is the very end of the movie, with the whole drag race, the quarter mile, where he's like, I live my life quarter mile at a time, for those 10 seconds or less I'm free. You see him in his dad's car, and he does the thing with Lyft, and everyone's losing their shit, 'cause it's like, oh my god, that's so cool. Over the railroad tracks, beating the train. Gotta say, the Fast and Furious was onto something good. When they made it, they kind of knew what they were doing, maybe not, just kind of, let's make a movie. We did get a second one, not that great. We did get a third one, not that great. Got a fourth one, pretty good. Fifth one, amazing. Sixth one, amazing. And it just keep going up the ladder. So for me, if this came out today, I would give it an 8 out of 10. I was entertained. I liked the story. The acting was so-so. The music, while it was very relatable to the Need for Speed games, it was kind of obnoxious, kind of nos.
A movie can have things wrong with it. It can have thin script, not the greatest actors, supporting characters that aren't that strong. But if the movie is fun and just high octane, there's still enough there to really dig into and really get into. And I think that's why this franchise has been so successful, because pretty much every movie in the franchise has suffered from the same thing. I give this movie a 10 out of 10. If you like any of the franchise, I highly suggest watching the first movie. And it's the same thing with all the other movies. Yes, it's not a perfectly made movie, but it's a perfectly entertaining movie.
Ultimately, my biggest problem with this film is the macho-ness, and essentially the portrayal of women is frankly a little demeaning. Every single female in this film is hot, wears skimpy clothes. The other women call them sluts. They're just in crowd scenes, shouting, cheering, having sex with anybody. There's very little strong female characters other than Michelle Rodriguez. Overall, the female characterization in this film is rather troubling. It's kind of depressing to me. Male gaze all over the place with this film. My biggest thumbs down, we have weak acting, cliched story, a plot that doesn't really hold up, a lot of macho-ness. Can't really overcome that, even though the action is great and Vin Diesel is awesome. So it's a disappointing 5 out of 10 for me.
Go on ahead, leave suggestions for us. Throw them down below. We will review them. What did you think of Fast and Furious? Also, that down there too. Go ahead and like this video and favorite. When you subscribe to this channel, you get more throwback reviews like this one, plus movie reviews, unboxing videos, other shenanigans we're doing the daily and weekly. And remember, guys, you heard it here at The Source.